Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the You Don't Know Jack podcast. I say
Hi,
that
everyone.
laughing.
That's right. I know.
I love the title. Um, I'm Dr. Haley Perlus
And
with
I'm Dr. Jack Groppel.
and today's episode, we've actually, in preparation, Jack and I have gotten together and we've made a list of topics and conversations that we want to have. And you're very welcome for those of you who have an idea, who have a question, please share it with us because we want to, create episodes that directly
Right.
speak to you. And today, this title directly speaks to you and I, Jack, and I know it'll speak to others. And it's all about the pressure to perform two different styles that have shaped us.
Right. And they come from our parents, specifically our fathers.
Yes. So for me, both my parents, I've had a great upbringing. My parents have been married at the time of recording, over 50 years. And but today we're going to talk about our fathers.
Yes, we are. And it's interesting. My mom went to all my athletic games. My mom drove me everywhere. Dad never went to a game. Dad saw me play one tennis match when I played in college, and we were playing a Division III school, and he knew that I would win the match. And that's the only match he ever came to. Never came to one of my baseball games when I was younger. Never.
Wow.
Yeah. So
So
that's how we're starting.
that's how we're starting. But I do have a cheat sheet, Jack. I want to put this out there, and I am holding
Please.
a little post-it note because I'm going to put pressure on you and I right now in the form
Okay.
of high expectations and things to cover.
Okay.
And so I definitely want to talk for you and I to share our experiences. So we do identify two pressure styles that you and I just inherited.
Right.
And then the emotional mountains, which kind of guides you into your book, Mountains Within, and
Correct.
how your life was shaped by the pressure from your father and how that impacted you emotionally.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
also want to talk a little bit more about how we've used our stories of pressure and the pressure to perform to shape our careers and to shape how
Hmm.
you parent and to shape how I
Correct.
consult. And then also how it's important that our pressures are internalized. So we'll talk about that as well for everyone. And then how we can shift. So no matter what pressure style you were raised in, for example, threat versus challenge, we're not stuck in any one. You have the power, Jack, and I know you've talked about how you grew up in more of a threatening pressure, whereas I grew up in
Hmm.
more of a challenging pressure. And and you'll talk about this, how that once you internalized it, once you became aware of it, once you realized the impact, how you've now chosen to pressure other people, including your son.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's going to be very obvious to our listeners that I threw myself a pity party for quite a while, that I had no other alternative to do things the way I did. And as I look back on that now, I had the opportunity and the ability to change at any stage in my life. I just struggled with the why around the change process, and which I found later on, and we'll address that. But I think I want to just give our listeners that heads up that change is possible, as long as you figure out the right reasons and everything else. But change is always possible no matter where you are in your life.
And pressure isn't bad.
No,
Pressure isn't the enemy.
no,
That's a theme that
no.
I'm running with right now. So why don't we start with you, Jack,
Okay,
and why don't you share your influence and your experience with pressure?
sure. So I'll try to do the cliff notes, obviously. Dad was a very interesting man. He was very German. Obviously, my last name Groppel. His mother, my maternal grandmother, she was in Isringhausen, and so everything was Swiss and German. My mother was a Corey, English and Irish, and Dad ruled the roost by fear. It was all about very demanding, disciplinarian. He definitely believed spare the rod, spoil the child. If I talked back, I found myself on the other side of the room. It was that kind of upbringing, and but from an early age, my dad. So I think the key to understand is that my dad was both the hero and the villain of my story. He was both. Um, I might have been the protagonist, but my dad was the hero and the villain. And the hero, from the standpoint that we had 21 beagles, Haley, when I was growing up. 21. in a small town of 7,500 people, Jerseyville, Illinois, 21 beagles in the backyard in a kennel. And he called his kennel Shady Dale Kennel, two words, Shady Dale. And one of his dogs he named after President Eisenhower, the nickname. So the dog's name was Shady Dale Ike. Our listeners can look this all up. Ike was a national champion. And in the 50s, Ike was one of the most well-known beagles in all of the United States. And so here I am. I've got this father who's a very demanding, not afraid of drinking. He became a full-blown alcoholic later, but he just he was mean. And I mean, but then he'd take Ike. He'd spend all this time training the dogs. Ike became a national champion.
Mm.
And when we were going to move to the big city of 40,000, Alton, Illinois, when I was 9 years old, Dad told me that he was going to sell all the beagles and he was going to sell Ike, which to me was a real conflict because I saw how much he adored Ike and how my dad got so much reward intrinsically from being around Ike and all the newspaper. And Ike, I mean, there's a picture in my book of me at 5 years old holding Ike's tail and the trophies and ribbons with my sister. I
I
mean,
know
just
the
ridiculous.
I know the picture, yes.
And so we drive to Niagara Falls, and here I am, 8, 9 years old, and I see my dad receive 1959, Haley, $900 for a dog.
Pretty
Now you're
expensive.
talking 25 to $30,000 in today's money.
Mhm.
And I'm just going, wait a minute, the car cost just a little bit more than that. The house wasn't a whole lot more than that. And I'm just going, you got to be kidding me. So that was my first exposure to entrepreneurism and from a man that I struggled getting to know. And then we moved to Alton, and I was a baseball player, loved baseball. Mom always took me to the games. One day I'll never forget, I hit a grand slam, came home. I couldn't wait to tell dad. Everything was, I couldn't wait to tell dad. He's reading the newspaper. I'll see it right now. Come home. I said, Dad, I hit a grand slam to win the game. He folds the newspaper down and he says, well, how about that? Straightens up the newspaper and keeps reading. And that was it. That was my reward. How about that? And how about that became everything in life. So I got a one event was really tough. I got a beating one time and I probably deserved it, but not to the level that I got because I had disobeyed him. And I don't want to go into details on that. It's all in the book if our listeners want to go that deep. But it scarred me. It scarred me. And it was instead of cowering, though, I said, I'm going to show you. I'm going to prove to you that I have value. And that was the beginning of achievement addiction for me. I became an Eagle Scout at 13, Haley, and I intentionally wanted to receive my Eagle the week before I turned 14 for the sole reason to receive an Eagle Scout award when I was 13. And what do I hear from my dad? Well, not many people have done that before, son. Not congratulations, not really proud of you. Not many people have done that before. So when I was 11, my parents made me take tennis lessons. I hated it. I was a baseball player. In my family, at farmers, you either play football or baseball. Tennis? Are you kidding me? But I fell in love with the game and started playing it with a friend, Bill Wicks, who I'm the godparent to his kids and dear friends to this day. And Bill and I, we would shovel the snow off the courts to play tennis. And Dad never came to a tennis match, but I taught myself to play. And and my sister went to the University of Illinois in the Big Ten. So I said, I'm going to play for Illinois. You're not recruited. You're not going to play there. I said, yes, I am. Watch me. I say again, you can't do it. Tell me I can't do it, Dad. Watch me. And I did. I walked on the team. But because I went to Illinois and Dad had to pay for it, I had to study agriculture. So I got my undergraduate degree in wildlife biology, loved the outdoors, loved nature, couldn't get a job. What I do, I start grad school in population genetics. I hated it. My sister, bless her heart to this day, said, why don't you go talk to the people? So at 22 years of age, Haley, I'm crying myself to sleep. And my sister said, go talk to the people in physical education. Dad will kill me. Who cares? Just go find out. They admitted me. They paid my tuition. They allowed me to teach tennis activity classes. Dad cut me off that night. He said, I'm not paying for this. You don't have to, Dad. I got it. Fell in love. I had a man mentor, a professor, Chuck Dillman, said 17 words to me. If you apply yourself, you could become a pioneering leader in the science of tennis performance. I have a man who believes in me. And I'm
That's
going, there's no template. I can do this. And I took the bull by the horns, went straight through, got straight A's, went to Florida State, got my doctorate. Now, remember, I think the thing that's key for our listeners, When Chuck said that to me, I realized that everything I had to do had to be the highest quality possible. Because if I'm going to be the first on the block to really do this, it has to be good. Because I'm going to struggle with this, but it has to be good work. And that was, I think, quality was a very key thing for me in my work. Go to Florida State, finish my coursework. Chuck Dillman calls me, Jack, the tennis coaching job at Illinois opened up. Would you like to interview? Are you kidding? So now I become the youngest NCAA coach in the country at 25 at the time.
What'd your dad say then?
Well, it's okay. It sounds good. They didn't think I'm going to make a career out of it. You're going to be a coach. Yeah, you're going to be a coach. Dad, I'm in a Big Ten, but I'm a Big Ten coach. Yeah, but you're not making much money. I mean, honestly, there was always the yeah, but with my dad. And it wasn't like he just kept putting it down. He just didn't believe in it. He just thought I was just being some Pied Piper, just chasing after a whim and a dream, which I would say to people today, go after those dreams, chase those dreams, because I'm a living testament to what can happen if you chase the dream. And then I was working with world class players. I resigned from coaching the men's team after 4 years. I got tenure at Illinois. Now my dad's going, well, now you've finally done something. 3 years later, I quit. I gave up tenure. I gave up tenure to become the director of player development at the Harry Hopman Saddlebrook International Tennis Camp. So here's my father. I gave up tenure at a Big Ten university to teach tennis, and my dad's dying. And he's, you can't do this. You can't do that. I said, watch me. It was always watch me. And, you know, it was just one thing after another. When I was in college, one summer, Dad said, we're going to drive to Alaska. And I said, Dad, we'll kill each other. And he said, no, I think we got to do it. And it was a tough trip. At one point on the trip, and then I'll turn it over to you, Haley, because you've got such a much different story. At one point in the trip, Dad was railing on me, and I was on the edge of a mountain in the Yukon Territory in northern Canada, and I'm driving over to the edge, and I'm scaring him. He's going, pull over, and I said, shut up. And here I am standing up for myself for the first time in my life to my father. And he said, all right, pull over. So I do. And I end that chapter of my book with the following quote, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. If standing up for yourself means you burn bridges, I have matches. We ride at dawn.
Oh boy.
Because I had to finally stand up for myself. And then the rest of my life, until I was in my mid to late 40s, when I heard my father say the words, I love you for the very first time, and I called him on it, that I had to advocate for myself. And then the last 10 years of his life, we actually had an okay existence together. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal, but it was okay. We were able to reconcile. But the Alaska trip was the beginning of us reconciling.
But it's interesting because I heard you say, he was telling you to pull over, and you told him to shut up when your entire
Yeah,
life you really just wanted him to speak up and say,
kinda.
good boy, like, congratulations for your success. I love you.
Yeah, yeah,
So high expectations because he made you do this. I heard you say that, made me play tennis, made me do this. So pressure pushing you to
yeah.
do things, but then also very little support.
Yes, it was pressure, but it initially was from dad, but then it was intrinsically to try to please dad and try to get the love from my father. See where your story now is going to come up was very different. I was, at the end of the day, I was just a young man trying to get the love of his father.
Right. Where I
You
always
always had it.
felt the
Yeah.
love. And you know what the interesting thing in my story is that my internalization, what I believed my father was doing, was actually very different to what others thought he was doing.
Isn't that interesting? So their perception wasn't the same as yours.
Oh goodness, my father was ridiculed. I didn't even really know it but now I do, as my parents have shared this with me. But my parents were ridiculed. My father in particular, saying you push your kids too much. You push your kids too much, and
Wow. I've
oh
not
yeah.
heard you say that.
But I actually, so when you said you had an intrinsic motivation to not just be good at something, be the best at something,
Yeah.
was the message my father taught me. I don't want to speak for my two brothers, but that was the message that I believe my father taught me. If you're going to be good at, if you find something that you're good at, and if you find something that you're interested in, so those were the two requirements. And
Yeah.
I know you share, you didn't know what you were going to do, but you just knew you were going to
No.
be the best at it. I actually didn't have that. It was find something you like, find something you enjoy, find something you can make money at, because we live in this world. And then once you find that, then there's the high expectations to go and be the best you can, or if not the best. You know, my father is Hungarian and he immigrated to Canada when he was 9 or 10 years old, and he became a periodontist, a gum surgeon. And he then became
Wow.
the president of the Ontario Dental Association. He then became the best of the
He
best.
was a high need achiever.
He was. But his philosophy was work hard, play hard. And it's not just a cliche. Like that's how he lives, 78 years old, still working.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful?
um, Work hard, play hard, but he loves what he does, and so he's the best at it, and that's what
Yeah.
he expects of me. But I'll tell you why um I want that pressure. Bring it on. And I'll tell you why. Because not only did I feel that there are high expectations of me, straight A's. I couldn't ski if I didn't have good grades in school.
Mm.
I wasn't going to, just casually do these sports. He'd wake us up at 6 a.m., flat water. Let's get in the boat. Let's go water skiing. He sent me to Colorado when I was 12 years old, not knowing a single soul to go and train. So there was a lot of pushing,
Yeah.
but there was a lot of support.
Yeah. And see, I was alone. I was alone.
I was not.
Yeah.
So were you, you were told to do this, pushed to do this, made to do this, where it was the words you used, maybe they made me do this, and then you had to go figure it out for yourself.
Right.
My father didn't get to participate in all the sports that I did as a younger age, so he picked them up as we picked them up. And I was a ski racer. That was just one of the many sports, and that was the sport that I became competitive in.
Right.
My dad started racing himself.
No.
Yeah, not only did he start racing in the Masters Leagues, he went and got his level one and level two coaching certifications. And here's where the stories. This is why story is so important, which is what I've obviously learned from you. The outside story was, look how much pressure this father is putting on this child. He is in engrossing himself, if that's the right word, in her sport. I would race down the course.
Interesting.
I would race down the course and he would be right beside me. I mean, he can't be there's gates and there's fence, so he'd be on the other side of the race course, skiing right down beside me. And everyone looked and said, "Look how much pressure he puts on his child." And you know what I know of? You know what I thought of?
You know what?
My dad learned and got his certifications in coaching so that he could speak my language.
That's what I was just going to ask you. Have you ever asked him why he did all those things?
Two things. Well, I know I didn't even need to ask him because I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's even more important. He didn't have to share this with me. I already
Right.
he got his levels of coaching because he wanted to support me. And so when I wanted to speak, when I wanted to ask questions, I was the athlete who wanted their parents at the competition.
Isn't that interesting?
So he wanted to be able to relate. He wanted to be able to understand. He wanted to be able to support me. And he raced beside me, or he skied down beside me racing, because God forbid something happened to me and I fell and hurt myself. He wanted to be the first one on the scene.
Isn't that interesting? So, was there ever a time? I mean, could when he started this, this is really important to me. Coming back to my story,
Yeah.
could he beat you from the first, or were you better than him immediately?
That's
No, this is
actually,
really important.
you know, um, he was better than, I mean, he taught me how to ski. He's taught me how to water ski. He's taught me how to play golf. He immersed himself and learned, and then he wanted to teach his kids. But he
So
wanted to
this
teach us the right way. And he was already the best at what he does. He already had the work ethic.
this is so fascinating.
So he
So
didn't
he
live
could.
vicariously through me.
No, no, I understand. So when you started racing, he could beat you. At what point and how did he handle the first time you beat him?
I think it was a non-issue.
See, now here's my story. The game of ping pong, table tennis. We had a table tennis table in our basement, and Dad, I couldn't beat Dad. He would drum me until I was about 11 years old. My coordination started getting better, and I remember clearly I beat him. He never played me again. He never played me again.
Yeah, no.
He couldn't handle losing to me after he'd been beating me, and he never played me again. And that's very telling in our relationships. That's why I'm bringing this up in the disparity and the differences that we both were growing up in.
Yeah. I think to me, when we talk about pressure, I don't know. I'm actually a fan of pressure, but I think it's the support that comes with that pressure or lack of support. I mean, he didn't want you to, it was almost like you felt like you had to prove him wrong. Like you said, I'll show you.
Yeah,
Yet
yeah.
at the same time, from that ping pong, that table tennis story, if you did show him, he didn't
He was
love you.
done. He was done.
He was gone.
And it's true, though. I look back on this now that there were other situations where things got a little dicey, and he would just evade it, he would just leave, and yet the pressure was still there. So the pressure that became important to me was almost like two things. My son laughs about it to this day. He calls me because one day he'll have his children. He says another Grandpa Jack story that he wants to tell his kids, because tell me that somebody's watching me and tell me that I'm losing. And my son he just starts laughing about all the stories that we've got because of the pressure that I'll put on myself. But it's not negative. For me, it's performance on demand.
Yeah.
And that's why I was able to go to these large arenas when nobody, I was a good bathroom break. I mean, following Christopher Reeve and preceding Muhammad Ali or Margaret Thatcher. Nobody knew who I was, but I thrived on that pressure. Many of us would wilt. I'm going, let's go. I'll practice this. I'm going to be so good at it that people are going to hear the first 30 seconds and they won't leave their seats. I started a business with Jim, and we with our own money. No, we neither one ever had a business class. Pressure. It's fascinating now that we were going to this level.
Well, and I would 100% concur with you. Bring it on. I want to be
Yeah.
part of the pressure club. I want to have earned a spot where people do have high expectations of me. But we arrive there differently. But then here's the question. If you are now, or maybe you already have, and been in this moment where you're playing table tennis with Shen, with your son, and he beats you, what are you going to
Oh, we stay. I would play again. I'd say you can't do it twice. That's almost. See, I'm kind of going. All right, you did that. Let's see if you can do it again. I will tell you where I have sort of fallen short on this, and I'll be very honest to our listeners, and it's the cognitive side of competing with him, because he is smart and play chess, and I can't. It's not whether I'll play him. It's just I know I'm not going to beat him anymore. He is so good at setting up a chessboard that I just can't beat him. But I'll play him, but I know it's I'm going to get my butt kicked. But that's okay.
The point being, though, is that you and I grew up very different ways.
Yeah,
You had pressure, no support, if we can just simplify it.
sure.
I had pressure, high expectations, high support.
Yeah.
And now you are parenting differently. You are
Yes.
coaching differently.
Yes.
So just because anyone listening and watching, just because we are inherently given a certain style of pressure, does not mean that we're stuck in that style.
It's my dad was very authoritarian, disciplinarian, and I'm not that way with my son. I want him to figure things out. Yes, when my method of discipline with my son is, what were you thinking? And then making him talk about the mistake that he might have made. And yeah, have there been consequences? A few, there have been, but nothing like I ever got. Nothing, because I intentionally made a decision I was not going to raise my son the way I was raised, that he would be shown values and what was right and wrong, and learning how to be an independent thinker and make his own choices. But then that there were consequences to the choices you make. So my son always learned that along the way.
What's your thinking about doing the exact opposite where you just don't lead, we'll say, whether it's parenting or coaching or in business, leading, where you just don't use pressure at all.
Well, that's
Liaison faire.
laissez-faire. That's as far as laissez-faire. We said the same word at the same time.
We
We
did.
we jinxed each other. The laissez-faire is not a good way of life. You're not even managing. You're letting them go out on a limb and probably make bad decisions, and they don't even understand what the consequences are. Because if we don't actually teach right and wrong, you don't know what right and wrong is. And then you might say, well, I don't care. Well, that's a very dangerous way of living your life.
Not once, and I really don't remember who started this, if I asked for help or if he just kind of intervened, but never have I ever submitted, I mean, I'm no longer submitting essays for grades in school, but never did I write an essay in my graduate programs that he didn't edit, and I sometimes say rewrite. I mean, he says that he too has a PhD in sports psychology
Oh,
because
that's funny. That's quite
I
funny.
never turned in any assignment without him editing and rewriting. And in one way, you could think my father doesn't think I'm good enough, therefore he needs to make sure that it's well written and submit it. I never had that thought. It
Isn't that
was,
interesting?
it's let's dive in and let's figure this out together. And here's something interesting. Again, it's just teaching about, again, not lowering the pressure, not lowering the expectations, but the support we can give ourselves and others. Is when I said to him that I want to stop racing. He not once did I feel any type of fear. I said to him, I want to stop racing. I want to be a sports psychologist. I want to pursue that. It's a long year, 10 years of education. And I remember so clearly saying, I don't want to hate the sport that I love. And that was all I needed to hear. No problem. I have a younger brother who actually went further in my sport than I did. He was named a member of the Canadian national ski team,
Wow.
and he turned it down
Mm.
because he wanted to become an orthopedic surgeon, and he didn't want to, give 5 years to ski racing. He was done. And oh my goodness, the team came after him because they were really upset. They worked so hard to help him, and not very
Sure.
many athletes get on the team. And
Sure.
they went after him, and my dad stood up for him like no other. My dad did not get angry at my brother, not for the slightest, as long as we had other interests. We
Yeah.
weren't, it's not you're going to do nothing, you're going to do something, but let's figure out what you want to do and then go be the best at that. High expectations, high support, I think
I
is
love that.
how we work with pressure. What I like to do is kind of just bring it back to see if we satisfied our expectations.
Please.
And, we definitely talked about two different pressures of style. One is, making you do this and you feeling that you needed to show your dad,
Yeah.
and you were searching for love and no support. He didn't really, either he didn't believe, he didn't care, or he did believe and did care. He just didn't let you see that.
He didn't know how to express it.
He didn't know how to express it. Whereas my upbringing, high pressure, high expectations, and high support.
Yeah, you were surrounded by a lot of love the whole time.
A lot of love, a lot of we're doing, even though it's you got to do it, but I'm here
Hmm.
to kind of be beside you wherever I can, literally be a scheme, be beside you wherever you can. But the
Yeah.
important lesson is that you and I both got to a place of high work ethic,
Hmm.
discipline, wanting expectations for ourselves. You have that intrinsic desire to be the best. I have that intrinsic desire to
I
be the
know.
best.
Right.
So even though for those, thinking about, your upbringing, it doesn't matter where you came from. We can always use it, and you don't have to repeat it if it's not going to serve you and the people that you love and support. You shift it. I do want you to close with one story that you just shared with me before we started recording this episode.
Which one is
You were on the tennis court, you're coaching,
Oh, yeah. So
and just, yeah.
yeah. So it starts 2 weeks ago. I was watching a women's team practice, and they're very talented players. They're college tennis players. And I'm actually standing next to a young man that's her boyfriend. And we're connecting, and she's playing a great match, and he and I are having a good conversation. Um, Very innocuous, just having a connection, talking about how she's playing, what he's doing with his game, and so on. Well, the very next weekend, I'm watching him play. and she's not there. It's just I'm at the corner of the court, and he was up a break in the first set, and then he lost 4 games in a row and lost the set. And he's walking back to the fence where I am. So he comes back and he looked up at me, and I said, "How are you feeling?" I won't say any names or anything. I said, "How are you feeling?" And he said, "Not good." Just like that, very sober, not good. And I said, "Thank you for telling me the truth. Now I don't have to call you out because it makes sense that you don't feel good. You just lost 4 games in a row. Now, you're a better player than this guy is. You've got to figure this out. Great tennis players figure out how to win when they're not playing well. Figure this guy out. It might take a game or two, but figure him out. You can get him." And he beat him in 3 sets. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying yay for me. That's not yay for me. It's the approach that we take to problem solving and guiding and mentoring. That's why I know we're going to do a session on mentors because that's going to be so important. And if you don't have a mentor, make sure you have one. And I've mentored you, Haley. And if you're in a stage in your life where you can be a mentor, please be a mentor to people. We're meant to do life together.
Yeah, you just haven't mentored me. You are mentoring me. Um, but
Thank
it's
you.
but it's true. I have many of them, and it's a privilege to be able to mentor others.
Right.
But that story, I just want to bring it back to that message. Go figure it out. It wasn't, give up. It wasn't, this today's not a good day. Maybe tomorrow, let's just get
Yeah.
through today and we'll figure out a way to
Right.
get over it and overcome it tomorrow. You literally stood there, made him take responsibility for his own actions, high expectations, high support, because the way you communicated to him, you can do this.
I
Go
said, I
figure it
believe in you.
out.
You're a better player than this guy is. Figure him out. And so right there, I encouraged, I believed in him, and then helped him get on the path to problem solving.
So I'm going to ask everyone now to think about a challenge that they're facing. And it may be something that you're wondering if you even want to continue to climb that mountain within.
Mm.
But, think about a challenge you're facing and then hear Dr. Jack Groppel say to you, I believe in you. Now go figure it out.
Mm. Well done, Haley. Mm.
And with that, we'll say goodbye for now.
Yeah, if any of you make sure you're aware of Haley's book, Personal Podium, that I actually endorsed. I think it's a great book. And my book is going to be out in 6 weeks. It's called Mountains Within. You can look it up and it'll be sold. But my website is jackgroppel.net. Get on my mailing list and we'll be happy to send you updated content and information about the book.
I do want to correct you because the time we're recording this, it should already be out.
Oh,
So
that's right.
we're
Sorry.
recording the that's, hey, listen, that's good. I'm just going to correct you because those people who are listening and want the book, they don't have to wait 6 weeks.
It's
We
out.
we recorded this early. It's out.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that, everybody.
We'll see you next
That's
time, everyone.
Take care.